On this episode of Fab Movement, we're going to be interviewing at Madeline Ray. We're going to be talking about her journey. Our themes are going to be studying for the MCAT, what brings about passion to get through this field because it's very challenging, as well as life in general. So please, join us. Enjoy the rest of the Saturday, right? Thanks again for coming. Really appreciate it.
Hey, I'm Madeline Ray on Instagram, and welcome to the Fab Movement.
All right, here we are, second episode, Fab Movement, MVMNT. We want the younger generation to be motivated, we want them to be valiant, we want them to be magnificent, we want them to be noble, and finally we need them to be tenacious. And today we got Madeline here. She's at Madeline Ray at Instagram, so please follow her on her journey as she's looking, and she will become a physician, a very valued physician in our community, which is what we need. So briefly about me, what I'm all about, I'm an orthopedic surgeon here in San Diego. Just really, at this point in my career, I've built the vision that I wanted to, and now it's all about expansion and growth, and a lot of that has to do with giving back to people here like Madeline. So she took the initiative through Instagram and sent me her personal statement for me to take a look at. And when I read it initially, I was like, wow, this is really good. So I didn't have much to edit, but I think I really applaud her for doing that. So yeah, tell us about yourself. So she's here from San Diego. I know that's an open-ended question. Yeah. So tell us briefly about your parents and all that stuff. So.
Okay. Yeah, so I was born and raised here in San Diego. I live specifically in Chula Vista, so just a few minutes away from the border, I've been exposed to all kinds of different
like
people.
little Philippines over there, right? Yeah. But it's a melting pot.
Yeah, not only just Filipino people, but my community has a lot of like Mexican people, Black people, and it's really helped me become more open-minded to the other stories of people in my community, and it affected what I wanted to, when I was thinking about what I wanted to volunteer as, it affected that too. And I think I didn't really appreciate how much it influenced me,
So we talked before about kind of going back, kind of hitting on that diversity thing. Mm-hmm. You had an experience that you talked about that kind of really kind of helped mold your motivation, your passion to go into the field.
Yeah. Like with
that community clinic. Yeah.
Oh yeah, so with the community clinic. Well, I guess that came a lot later.
At that time,
yeah, that came a lot later. So I guess I'll start with from the very beginning. I went to UC San Diego for college for my undergraduate, and I started my experience. I was pretty open-minded. A lot of my family members were in the healthcare field. As nurses, so I already had exposure to the healthcare field. I knew it was something that I was interested in, but I just wasn't really sure where I was going to fit in.
Because your mom was, she was in the healthcare field.
Yeah, she was a dental assistant.
Well,
yeah, she was a dental assistant. My dad was in the Navy, but lots of my aunties and uncles were nurses in a lot of hospitals around. So I thought, okay, might be interested in the healthcare field. So I started my time at UCSD and started pretty strong. First quarter I was able to get those straight A's, but then I started taking my prereqs later that year, and I remember my first prereq that I took was general chemistry, and I remember taking my midterm, and when I got the score back and when we were all reviewing it as a class, the class average was a 38.1%. And then I remember the professor saying, "That's
a tough exam."
Yeah, it was very tough. And then I remember the professor saying, "Oh, that's not too bad. It's a little lower than what I usually expect." So I think during that moment, I kind of realized, like, oh my gosh, what have I gotten into? Oh man, this might be a little more challenging than I expected.
Yeah, because I remember for me, it's cutthroat. The pre-med curriculum is cutthroat. It's competitive. Mm-hmm. You got a lot of people that, I think obviously we're always pretty smart academically, did well academically in high school. So now you kind of had to go from high school where kind of were the top, and then you kind of go and level up. because everybody there usually were at the top of their game.
Yeah.
So that was stuff I know for me, that kind of reminds me of my personal experience. You know, organic chemistry tends to be a weed-out class for pre-med students. And my first organic chemistry exam, I did not do well.
Yeah.
And I questioned myself. I'm like already my mind was spinning like, okay, I got to choose another career. But what I did is that I doubled down for the next exam and really just knock it out of the park, thank God. But that goes to think, you know, you can't quit on your dreams, you know, which is what you're doing. You know, you finished college about 2 years ago. But
in 2016.
Yes. But you're going for it. You're going for it. So.
Yeah. So, it took me a little while to realize, you know, like I think throughout the prereqs, it's sometimes when you're so just focused on like one subject like that, it's hard to make the connections. And in those connections, like, you know, to the human body or things like that, like that's where you really start to love medicine.
Yes.
You know, at least for me, like it wasn't the really nitty-gritty details of chem or phys or inorganic chem, but it was how all of it came together. And so when I took my human physiology class, that was where, you know, I started to see everything coming together. You know, you're like learning about the gradients and how, like, you know, the sodium, potassium pump.
Human physiology just shows you the integration of all those things that came. It's like, I mean, if you're interested in that, you know, that's where it starts.
Yeah.
Because the human body is pretty magnificent, but the physiology of it is down human body to the basics. And if you don't like that, medicine might not be the best field for you. You know, so. Tell us. So there's a lot of challenges, okay, in terms of the application process. You know, that personal statement. How long did it take you to do that? Because I know for me it took me a long time.
Yeah. So I thought that people were kidding when they said I pushed out 11 or 12 drafts. You know, and I was like, is it? You know, that's pretty extensive when you're writing. But that was around how many drafts I pushed out. And it changed so much. Like if I look at my first personal statement, you know, writing and rewriting, you're just thinking more and more about your story. So, but I was able to submit something that I was really, really proud of. So I would just encourage.
And you should be. I was
Yeah. And the one that I sent
I was like, go Madeline.
Oh, thank you. But the one that I submitted to you too wasn't, I still made changes, you know, after. So it was, in the end, I was really happy with it, and, you know, I said I really put my best effort forward with it. So I would just encourage people to start on it, I would say at least a month before. Maybe even 2. If writing is not something that you feel really strongly about, so that you can get a lot of different feedback.
Which ties into a theme that's not only important for what we do in the medical field, but also in life in general. You know, anything that you put out that's important to you, put your stamp of excellence on it. You know, that Steve Jobs is one of my inspires. I didn't like how he treated people, but you know, every product that he put out, he made sure that it was excellent. You know, so, and it was down to every detail, almost probably pathologically a little bit. But also, I think also important for you guys, for the younger generation out there, you know, for me, I didn't have these opportunities to send out my personal statements to other people. You know, right now it's so easy. You know, I didn't really have people look at it. You know, I should have in retrospect, but I really encourage that you do that, because the more input that you get, the better, and that helps you kind of hone in and polish the product that you're putting out there. So take advantage. And you took advantage. You know, I mean that's kind of amazing. You know, so
Thank you. Thank you for looking it over. You did give me some feedback, which helped me, you know, take it to where I needed it to be.
Sure.
So and I would just encourage a lot of other people to, like you said, reach out to other people. I think that's one thing that really held me back when I was at UCSD. You know, I was a commuter student. I was commuting from Chula Vista to San Diego, and for the people out there who, you know, maybe may not be from San Diego, it's about a 1 hour drive in traffic, and then, you know, going back. So while I was there, I would just go to school and go home, and I wasn't really taking the time to establish a community. And, you know, I had people back home that supported me, and they did serve as like my support system, but I think it's entirely different when you have people around you who are also pre-med, or who are pre-med advisors. You know, it provides this totally different level of support that I really needed.
No, I mean that's a proven formula. You know, like just having groups, people that are in the same journey, you know, kind of the same step in their journey. Also, people who are at a higher level, you know, because that you glean from that experience. You know, there's this quote that I read that, like, you know, knowledge that you can obtain can take 10 years if you do it on your own, but can take 1 day if you learn from a mentor. You know, so I think that's important also for this FAB movement. That please reach out to me, DM, @MidFitChris, who I interviewed last week. Reach out to Madeline. You know, if you're in high school thinking about going to pre-med, you know, so glean from that experience. You know, there's always someone that is kind of down the road in terms of where you want to go for your finish line in medicine. So just, I mean, don't be scared to know. You know, I think for me, I was timid to ask. You know, I was scared to get a no. You know, but
especially in the pre-med community, it's like it's really hard because, you know, everyone wants to seem really strong. You know, and it kind of makes it hard. It's an environment. Yeah, it's an environment where it's really hard to admit that you're having trouble or that you're struggling.
It's a very
it's like finding your group of people that you relate to really well. It's just.
I think, you know, I mean, classically the culture of medicine has been people putting on facades, right? Like being bulletproof. I think part of that has to be maybe out of necessity, you know, just because they put a strong front for a stressful environment for the patients to, you know, maybe glean from their confidence. But and there's a fine line between confidence and arrogance. And you know, for me, I was worried about that attending thinking I was done, or kind of yelling at me, you know, because that's the culture. But I think right now, from what I've read, you know, in terms of training, they're fostering more of an environment of empathic doctors. You know, I think that's important because I don't think that was stressed upon in the past. And I think it also goes to, you know, certain kind of cultures that tend to work better these days. It's a culture of collaboration and openness, as opposed to like a tyrannical culture, which classically has been what, you know, medicine, a lot of it, particularly the surgery fields, have been like. So.
Yeah, imagine if we can turn, you know, like the culture that we have now into something and shift it towards something more collaborative. Everyone would gain, you know. So
you've experienced some challenges where things didn't work out the way you wanted to work out, but what's kept you going?
Well, I think after taking human physiology, I was, you know, that's when my commitment to medicine was solidified. You know, I said, okay, this is what I really want to do now. And I've decided it, I mean it. So after that, things just started really looking up for me. You know, academically, I started doing a lot better from that point. But when I took human physiology, it was the very end of my junior year. So I realized my passion for medicine a little late, and I knew that I had to do some work before I was ready to apply, you know. So I took a year off. I worked as a medical scribe at La Maestra Community Health Center in El Cajon, and it was a great experience, you know. I got to interact with an entirely different population that I had never had experience with before. They focus on providing care for recently settled immigrants, and at that location there were a lot of Iraqi refugees. You know, so on my first day, I walked into clinic. Everyone speaks Arabic, and it was just a culture shock for me. But you know, in the best way. Best way possible.
Before you go on, you passed the test because I asked you that question,
Uh-huh.
and I was waiting for you to mention the word passion, and you did. So I mean, because passion trumps all. You know, passion makes you work hard. Passion makes you not give up. Passion makes you read and continue to like kind of get better and better at what you do. So, but sorry to interrupt you. So
No,
go ahead.
that's
Yeah.
okay. I think once you have a clear goal in mind too, it makes everything like it makes your work a lot more easier and enjoyable.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, yeah.
because I think when I was taking the prereqs, you know, I was so unsure. I didn't have that confidence yet built, and then I found that confidence and I found the passion,
Yeah.
found what I wanted to do, and everything was just clear.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
So
good,
it was
yeah.
really great.
So you had a vision and you had direction,
Mhm.
and you kind of touched upon a little bit about burnout. A little bit. You kind of alluded to that. That passion, if you have it for what you do, the chance of burnout is kind of, I think, is low and low. You're going to go through tough times. You know, you're going to have to do. You're going to go the extra mile. You're going to do what people are unwilling to do. But if you hold on to that passion, you know, you can decrease that level of burnout. You know, so yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
So, okay, so I was a medical scribe at the Community Health Center, La Maestra, and they just really welcomed me, you know, and they taught me about their food and their culture and their language.
How did that feel?
It felt.
I can see by your body language.
Yeah.
Yes.
It felt so great. You
Yeah.
know, it was. I remember there was one conversation that I was having with a patient, and he was saying, "How many words can you think of in English that describe a lion?" You know, lion.
Yeah.
You know, like, and then he said, "In Arabic, we have 50." So from that, I was just like, wow, you know, their culture, their language, everything is just so vibrant.
Yeah.
And, you know, even though I was only working as a medical scribe, I think I kind of realized, like I love medicine not only because I love science, just working as a medical scribe, learning lots about medicine, but also learning about, you know, how medicine was a way to learn about the world through other people's stories and through their eyes. So that just made me, you know, reaffirmed my passion, and it pushed me to apply to the pre-health professions post-bac at San Francisco State University. And they have two different tracks. So they have the career enhancer track, which is if you just decided to pursue medicine and you don't have a lot of the prereqs completed.
Yeah.
So since I had a lot of the prereqs completed, I took the academic enhancer track instead to kind of, you know, just build up my grades,
For sure.
make them stronger before I applied for medical school. And that experience was really valuable for me because I was, you know, I found the community there that I was not able to form at UCSD. You know, I was maybe too shy to reach out to people while I was at UCSD, but just from day one at SF State, it was just so open, you know. And if anyone out there is looking for a post-bac program, I would definitely recommend San Francisco State.
You got a connection right here. So yeah, she also talked about the scribe opportunity. I think, you know, if you're in pre-med, I don't know if high school people can do it, or if you're in gap year, being a scribe, I think, is a valuable experience because, I mean, I'm sure you've shadowed people, and yeah, that's a great experience, but it's also passive learning. I mean, you can take a little more active by asking questions, but if you're a scribe, that's purely active learning. Because you're not only listening, you got to learn the terminology, but you're typing it, you're writing it down. And something about writing things down that really kind of imprints that education in our brain. So, and plus, you can establish so many connections just by being a scribe with doctors, with other healthcare professionals. Really, one, give you more education, and two, also potentially, you know, make some phone calls for you or give letters of recommendation. So I think that's a great gateway if you're in your gap year, particularly for that. So what do you like to do in your free time?
I love to play piano. I like to play every morning, and it just helps me start my day off right. you know.
It's artistic.
Yeah.
What's your favorite piece to play?
My favorite piece, I don't know if I have a favorite, but right now I'm learning how to play one of the songs from La La Land. It's one of the movies out there.
Yes.
I'm the stone, Ryan Gosling. But, yeah, so it's
One Best Picture, right?
yeah, something like that, I think. Yeah, but I love to do it. I've been playing since I was 4 years old, and I like how, when I was 4, growing up, I was like, like, oh, my parents are forcing me to do this.
4
but,
years old.
Yeah.
4 years old.
Yeah, but it teaches you a lot.
Yes.
When you're, I think, playing piano, you make a lot more mistakes before mastering a piece.
Yes.
So it teaches you, persistence, and you have to use your problem-solving skills to figure out all the different notes. And it's nice to see something like on a sheet of paper come to life as like something that just sounds really beautiful.
Yeah.
So
And how does it feel when you nail your first time or you get it perfect, or you feel like it's perfect?
Oh, it's just
awesome.
Yeah, it feels amazing.
Yeah.
I would do my reaction on camera, but I think it would just be a little too much for this interview. I'd be like, yes.
Maybe next time we'll have you play. I don't think we have a piano here.
Yeah.
What's wrong with this place? Where was I going to go with this? So you recently took your MCAT.
I did.
So
I
any
did.
pearls of wisdom that you can give?
Well, for me, what really made a difference was because this was my second time taking the MCAT. I took it, I was trying to study for it, after I graduated from UCSD, but at the same time I was working a little bit, and it just, my focus wasn't entirely on studying.
So you could have been more dialed in.
Yeah, for me, what worked for me was just taking a couple months, putting a couple months aside to solely focus on studying for the MCAT. But everyone's different, and everyone's study style is different. I have talked to people who have studied while they're working, but me personally, what worked best was.
So what resources did you use to learn?
Yeah,
Just like.
Yeah, I was, the first month that I was studying, I was doing content only. So what I used for that was the Kaplan books, and so I only did content for the first month, and then second month I just started straight into the practice tests, And what I used for the practice tests were the AAMC materials, crucial, really, really key. Like you need to take. I would even say maybe save those for last.
Yeah.
Take other test prep companies.
Yeah.
I think the other one that I used was Next Step,
Okay.
which was I found was really good and quite similar to the AAMC.
And there's also a lot of Instagram influencers, so to speak, that provide that gateway.
Yeah.
Two guys that I've gotten to know on Instagram, obviously digitally, haven't met in person yet, but MCAT Motivator is a good one, all things healthcare. So shout out to you guys.
Also
YouTube.
YouTube is a great source
it's
too.
all there. Yeah,
If you're an audio learner, I find that I am.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, they say 97% of all knowledge in the world is on the internet. So I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
It's there for the taking. It's just we got to take action. So good, good.
And then so I studied for I think 3 months for it, 2 to 3 months, and then I took it and. Walking into test day, I was just, I really put all of my effort into it. I really couldn't have tried any harder than I did. And I was just like comfortable and confident in that fact. And so I walked in and I took the test and for people who finish the test and walk out of it feeling a little sad, a lot of people feel like that.
Yeah.
So,
you don't know.
You have no idea how the curve might affect your score. I felt a little like, did I do my best? And I took it, but it turned out fine.
At the end of the day, finishing up here, you were talking about the MCAT, and Yeah, you were proud of the effort that you put in. You mentioned you couldn't have worked harder.
Yeah.
And I think that's great. You know, one of my favorite quotes is, "You're responsible for your effort. You're not responsible for the outcome."
That's
You
a
know,
great
so
quote.
I think it's a
I
great
love that.
quote. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
love
as long
that.
as you can go home at the end of the day, look yourself in the mirror, and be like, "I brought my all."
Yeah.
You know, all the rest is out of your control.
Mhm.
So we're proud of you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today. You know,
Thanks
so
for having me. It's been fun.
you inspired me. You know, so yeah. I mean, I think we're here to help. Let's all start this movement, help each other, help us. Rising tide lifts all boats. So
And he's such a nice guy.
Yeah, I'm joking.
He's so willing to help. So I'm
Yeah.
very happy to be here and get a
thank you.
chance to share.
Thank you. Appreciate
Yeah.
that. Appreciate that. So.